well, look, we know about a fair few backdoor ways into Britain, don't we? We also know about one where you can just kick your way through the front door of the English Channel and you're allowed to stay indefinitely anyway. But is the Church of England actually aggravating the situation? Not only do woke clergymen like the Archbishop of Canterbury and York incessantly speak and vote against government bills to stem the flow of migrants, but the Church has been accused of encouraging illegal immigrants to convert to Christianity to help with their asylum claims, including, most notably, in the case of the Liverpool maternity hospital bomber, who thankfully only managed to, obliterate himself in that blast, but frankly could have actually killed a load of newborn babies. The question marks there were about whether or not he had been allowed to convert to Christianity to be able to claim that he would face persecution in his home country, and therefore we couldn't send him back. Former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, Dr. Gavin Ashenden, joins me now to discuss this. Gavin, thank you very much. Do you think that the Church of England is complicit when it comes to the illegal migration epidemic that we're seeing?
Well, they're certainly not doing anything to help. And the difficulty is that they're using a simple test of you should love your neighbour and treating immigrants as the neighbour. But actually, the first neighbour that we have is the neighbour we live amongst. And as we live in a society where we're finding increasing difficulty in looking after the poor and the homeless, we're finding it difficult to find enough money for education and for health. The idea that we can promote unlimited immigration as a religious duty and a moral duty is ethically really very, very narrow-minded. And there doesn't seem to be any sense amongst the church leaders that there are two sides to this. It appears to be a piece of political or cultural myopia.
It seems odd to me, though. I can see the side of it, which is that any religion surely feels some form of need to convert people to it. And their argument may be that here are a load of people who are ripe for the conversion. Do you think that's what it is?
Well, you could say that if the Church of England put a lot of effort and energy into converting people. Now, some parts of the church certainly do, the evangelical part, and there's an excellent program called Alpha. But on the whole, the people you're talking about are at the political left, and they're very anxious about conversion normally because they're relativists and they have a very strange view of what Christianity is. So I'm afraid when I think that the people who are pro-immigration, when they're suggesting that people convert, it looks to me more like it's a political and underhand strategy. I'm all for people coming to Jesus and being Christians. I think it's good for people and good for the world. But if it's done as a strategy to increase multiculturalism and immigration, then there's something wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it firsthand. I was in a church and I saw that there were quite a few people there who appeared to be residents, and indeed they were residents of the local migrant hotel. They were attending that church fairly regularly. There was, of course, a collection for them afterwards as well, which was nice. But the particular faith leader there was very keen on letting people know that these people had been brought in to the fold. And, of course, it does make it quite easy if you happen to be from a part of the world where you can claim that Christians are persecuted to essentially be signed off as Christian and allowed to stay in. And I just wonder whether or not that is happening to quite a large extent.
Well, let's be clear. There's everything right about welcoming people who are strangers. There's everything right about trying to help them become Christians. The problem is if that's discontinuous from what you normally do, if you're not making exactly the same efforts with your indigenous neighbours to help them come to Christ, then it becomes not a matter of spiritual transformation, but a political strategy. And that's when it becomes hypocritical or two-faced. And I think what you're suggesting is there's some element of two-facedness in the politicisation of bringing people to a religious conversion.
Well, it was highlighted, yeah. I mean, it was highlighted in the case of the Liverpool maternity hospital bomber at the time, and then it all went quite quiet. But it was something that I think was worth highlighting, which is that were there these kind of underhand schemes taking place, essentially, which is that they were very pro-asylum seeker, they were very pro-allowing them to stay in the country, they had some kind of moral or philosophical view that our current immigration system and a quotes-unquote hostile environment was morally wrong, and therefore the church had a duty or an obligation to try to prevent that where possible. And if that then crossed the line of allowing people, facilitating people to lie about their religion in order to stay in, and then something bad happens, like that individual tries to blow up a maternity ward, then I would argue that the church would have quite a lot to answer for there. I mean, do you think that it's maybe worthwhile having a little look into this stuff, some kind of internal investigation perhaps?
Well, I think the trouble is you only know that's happened when it's gone wrong, don't you? And you don't know if people are generally going to have found Christ and a new life and a new way of being human, which is something to celebrate and quite wonderful. And nor do you know if the whole thing is a political strategy and actually they intend malice and damage to the home country. But I mean, one of the things that we have to talk about is the fact that amongst the asylum seekers who are coming in, many of them follow a particular religion and hold a view towards our culture that is not friendly and is really quite full of antipathy. And again, it's irresponsible to both encourage and facilitate that when we know very well it's multi-layered and really quite complex and problematic ethically and spiritually.
Yeah, 100%. Dr. Gavin, thank you very much. It is always a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope to chat to you again very, very soon. It's Dr. Gavin Ashenden there, who's the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II. I just wanted to highlight that and pose the question. I wonder whether or not the Church of England is actually helping, really, when it comes to the asylum seeker crisis. Well, I'm very pleased